record.
I was
get
gonna say we can get started on it.
Hello, everybody, and what a fun way to start the call and like connect and schmooze a little bit. It makes me so happy. It is Sunday, September 18th, and it's before Rosh Hashanah 2022. And I absolutely love these holiday calls. I love that we can go back over the years, and maybe this week we'll post some of the old Rosh Hashanah calls. And we can really talk about how far we've come, all of you who have been in the family for a long time. And we can get excited to create a new yearly tradition with everybody who's new on the call tonight. I know we have some amazing new participants in the Facebook group and in the group that Ayelet has brought in that I saw. So welcome to everybody I don't know. It's well good to see you. And it's so good to see old friends also. So really happy to have all of you here with us tonight to celebrate the new year and to discuss your questions, concerns. I want to open the call with an interesting question. Who here remembers who's been either with Alana with To Be Mindset or with her book or with her podcast or with the Mindset for a long time? Hold on, sorry, I'm just going to mute everybody. Other coaches, please feel free to unmute yourselves as you need.
I can't mute other people though.
Got it. It was just taking me a sec. Okay. So Alana has this thing against the word starving. We all know that. Raise your hand if you've heard her rant against the word starving. So I was listening to her live office hours, kind of preparing myself for tonight's call from last week. And she kind of made mention of the word struggle. And it reminded me that I heard recently on a podcast this week also about how much we overuse the word struggle, and they put it in the same way that she put the word starving. Like there are people who are starving and there are people who are struggling. I thought it was okay. But when we use struggle, let's make sure that we're really talking about struggle. Because when we say we are struggling with late night holiday meals, I think Ayelet did such a beautiful job last week talking about how there are obstacles and we need a plan and we need to prepare and we can be successful. But struggle implies a deep emotional problem, something you're really struggling with. And we all have struggles, every single one of you, and me included. But tonight, I want us to try to put the word struggle where we put the word starving. Save it for real emergencies. Because just like the word starving, the word struggle makes it an emergency. And it creates a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And I want us to question whether or not the word we're going to say is struggling. What do you guys think about that? Are you all in to retire the word struggle unless you're actually really struggling with something? How do you guys feel? Let's put a 1 in the one. Yeah, go ahead, Yoni, please.
No, so I was actually going to say when the whole starving conversation came up, when we said in our house, like there are people who are actually starving, find a different word. So it was almost like the joke of like, okay, guys, get your thesaurus out. So it had to become, I'm famished. I am. So it had to be like, even with my kids, they couldn't use the word, don't use the word starving. You're not starving. There are people who don't have food. I am so famished. I am so unbelievably hungry. I could eat my own arm. I mean, I don't care how you said it, just don't use the word starving. It's the same thing when it came to school. So it's when you struggle. I am finding this challenging. I am frustrated by this. So it was like, get your thesaurus out kind of to figure out. And it wasn't for the fact of being difficult but it means, and I say this all the time, words have weight.
Yeah.
So when you use your words, make sure they're the meaning you intend. Note, mindset isn't about food. Mindset is about your life and how it affects every aspect. And I think even the words we choose, we have to be mindful about the words we choose because they can influence us into that higher level of what you called emergency, like the emergency
Exactly.
thinking versus using a word that is a little more, I don't want to use the word stable, but on a lower level of anxiety that will actually bring us down in the amount of stress we're feeling, rather than saying, I'm at the breaking point. I've heard so many, I'm at the breaking point. Like, you're pushing yourself there by using words that are actually exacerbating the stress you're feeling.
And I hope everyone's okay. We're bringing this up because I want us to really be problem solving tonight and creating a sense of calm and confidence. And words like struggling undermine that for yourself. You'll leave the call and you'll be like, yeah, I was really struggling with this topic and we got solutions, but gosh, am I safe enough? Am I calm enough? Am I confident enough to get over the struggle? Let's really save the word struggle, because you guys will all have struggles at some point, right? I'm sure you probably do already. I know I do. And so let's save that word for somewhere else. Ayala, did you have something you need to say on this, or?
Yes, just meaning on that topic of the word and the words holding power and meaning, I very much feel like it comes back to when we've spoken so often about the interpretation that we give to things in our head, like, and what we think about something and feeling that before we jump to the feeling. We're so used to skipping the thought. We're so used to skipping the mind. And then it's almost like we feel like we're struggling and then we feel like overwhelmed and we can't. And if you just call it something else and you use different words, I feel like that's what's empowering. Like I've written, I feel the same thing about the word trigger. And I think people use that very differently. But like when you're, and I had a conversation with somebody about it, like when you're just kind of saying, oh my God, and this triggered me and that triggered me, it's triggering you because that you interpreted it to mean something. So when you are interpreting everything that comes as a struggle, and the word struggle, like you said, means something like starving to you, then it's all going to feel like something you can't overcome. So I just wanted to like hone in that point. Like you got to guys remember that between what happens and here is this: your mind, your thoughts are what control everything down.
Yeah. Amazing. So you guys can see all of us coaches are on the same wavelength on this, and for a reason, because we've all experienced pre-2B being starving, you know, in our journey being struggling. I'm struggling with Shabbos, I'm struggling with Rosh Hashanah, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety about the meals. And we don't want that for you. We have had to experience it and learn the hard way. And so we want to help you guys and just show you, hey, like we fell in that pothole. Don't fall into the pothole with us. Like step around, sidestep the pothole of using that word so consistently. Okay, so I want to go into outlining the topics that I got from you guys and give you a chance in the chat to kind of let us know which ones really resonate with you if you have something I don't mention. We talked about the later evening meals over Rosh Hashanah and Shabbat, that there's going to still be later evening meals, especially because there's second day Chag, that it's really almost like a 5-day holiday. It's like a trial run for Sukkot, because we go into Shabbos, Sunday off, then 2-day Chag, right? Which is going to end already midway through the week. You're going to have like 2 days off, 3 days off, back into Shabbos. It's really going to be almost just like Sukkot is going to be almost. It's going to be an amazing opportunity to have a test run. So late night meals and a lot of back-to-back holiday meals. Those are the two things that came up over and over and over again. Is that where you guys are? You guys who showed up for yourselves. Let me know which one of those two things, or if there's something else I didn't mention. And I really want this call to be impactful, which means I need to hear from you guys. What's most important? Both, okay. Anybody? Anybody else? One of them more than the other? Anybody feeling something else that I didn't bring up?
I think what I've been hearing, I mean, from my challenges is that the biggest stressor is trying to balance, and we do this each year. And for anyone who's new, you'll hear these things over and over, but we get to the Chagim and people use the word minhag as if it's halacha. It is our family minhag to have XYZ. And there's a funny thing, because I kind of threw it out and I should have said it in a nicer way, but I said, is it also minhag to put yourself, I don't remember the exact wording because it was much not nicer than I'm saying it now, but I said, is heart disease also minhag? Where in this family, there's an actual history of heart disease. And my point wasn't to be mean. My point really wasn't to mean, I'm not like that, but it was almost like I was shocked that the minhag of having 17 different things that were named to me in the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah was more important to the fact that there were multiple family, and when you say struggle, multiple family members struggling with actual dangerous health issues, that removing certain foods that would benefit everyone to not have at the table, minhag kept coming up, but it's our minhag to have it. And all I kept saying is, you can start a new minhag.
Yeah.
And choose, ask the family, here are these things, choose which ones. And the ones that have the highest votes, those are the ones we're going to incorporate this year. And next year you get to choose again. But a lot of people were saying that the family minhagim was what was kind of catching them up of, how do I eliminate what I've taught my family to expect?
Great.
That was what's been raised the most often in the last.
First of all, thank you so much. And that resonates right with what Ayelet said in the chat, which is not being angry about minhagim or traditions and things that are happening that maybe this year 90% of you doesn't want to partake in, and 10% of you, 10% of each of us does want it because we've trained ourselves, right? It's easy to kind of blame it also on our family, but my kids really want that apple crumble cake. Well, so do you. That's why you make it every year. That's why you looked up the recipe, right? And you want that to please your kids. I think that's really, also a thing. Ayelet, yeah.
Okay, I think there's also an important aspect, because Yoni brought it up, and I think it's so important to distinguish between minhag, which, a real proper minhag, like I could tell you in terms of a Yekish family, washing before Hamotzi, that is minhag kehalacha. There are different minhagim, and then the traditions that aren't actually like simanim, great, and you want to impart a lot of things you do with your family, but I think I forgot where we discussed it. There's a difference between eating gazillion portions and slathering everything with honey, or being able to explain to your children everything has a symbol, sign, and the sweet. I think everybody has to also be very honest. I know I do. Honest with myself, because we put honey, let's say, on thing, and then I was able to learn the difference between making a carrot muffin or making roasted carrots.
Okay, so I think that's perfect. That's where we want to go tonight. So I want to open up to everybody here. Let's start with the late night, the later evening, okay? Because I think that's the place we need to get the most honest. And I want to be 100% honest with you guys. I have a rule for myself. And when I am coaching, I repeat it to my challengers. Any carb at night is a treat, even in FFC. Any treat at night is like a double treat because it's at night. Okay. So anything that's not protein and vegetables at night is already a treat, even if it's an apple and honey and pomegranate seeds or a date. That's all a treat to your body because it doesn't need the sugar at night. It's all a treat, which is fine. We can enjoy treats, but treat stacking is like the evil stepsister of habit stacking. Okay, she's not invited to the party. And what happens is at these late night meals, especially second night Rosh Hashanah, we have treat stacking. We have, first course, simanim, and treat number 2, honey on the challah. Treat number 3, maybe you're having wine with dinner. Treat number 4, maybe you're having a small serving of dessert. Mystery treat number 5, you are smothering your proteins and vegetables with a ton of honey, maple syrup, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you're having squash and all kinds of fruit and dried fruit added to your mains and your proteins. Okay, so we could easily have 6 or 7 treats at night, which kind of makes it like 14. And I'm saying it clearly because I literally just went over my own menu that I was thinking of making, and I'm like, shoot, I was treat stacking. And it was a very, very healthy menu. I need to pare down how excited I love Rosh Hashanah so much. There, we can change. And so it's really important that we think about, are we treat stacking? And then I want you to remember the kid in the candy store. The kid in the candy store doesn't taste the candy he's eating. His eyes are so busy and there's so much happening. He's not tasting that one licorice stick he bought. When we have treat stacking, we actually lose the power of the honey or the dried fruit or the pomegranate, because everything is pomegranate. You know, it's like November, right? Everything goes pumpkin spice, and really you're like, it's not such a big deal. When you have that first pumpkin spice tea, wow. Okay. Okay, let's hear some comments on that, and then we're going to take it to the next steps. I want to hear from you guys. Are you feeling resistance to what I just said? Are you feeling like, I'm out of here? Do you have a question? How can we work with this? Did it resonate with you? So Sabrina shared, I feel like I rush through the late meals just so I can eat before putting the baby to sleep. Even on Shabbos, I leave before dessert. For her, it's the long daytime meals because she can sit and enjoy them where she can enjoy the dinners. So treat stacking applies to daytime meals too, guys, right? You get one, like we want to have one FFC or one treat on Shabbos meals. I very often feel like I'm not very active on Shabbos, and so I don't need an FFC at lunch, but that's where I'll have my Shabbat treat, which is like at the end of my Shabbat lunch meal. But again, we could have treat stacking there. We have the more courses, the more opportunities to have vegetables and water, or the more opportunity to treat stack. So if we would go into the holiday with the concept of, hey, I'm going to be vegetable stacking, I'm going to be water stacking, in how many ways, if there's multiple courses involved, could I be having vegetable and water and like actually training myself to more sure? Could I like have a game where between every course I'm drinking 16 ounces of water? Could every single course I serve be veggies most? If I want to make a simanim soup, can it be like 99% non-starchy vegetables and like an acorn squash or a small kombucha squash thrown in? Or like Alana likes to say, a single potato in a vegetable soup is an accessory, right? Like chill. But how can we be mindful? How can we, if we want to add honey, like Ayala gave a great example, add it to our glazed carrots versus having, you know, a lot of other options and having so much, especially on our proteins. If you guys haven't watched the Breakthrough a Plateau video in the Mindset membership, I highly recommend it. One of her best tips I ever heard Alana give was watch your proteins. So many times we are adding accessories to our carbs and our proteins, and adding a lot of accessories to carbs. She talks about in plain TV mindset, focus those accessories on your vegetables, focus those accessories on your vegetables. But when you're focusing them also on your proteins at these big holiday meals, you can easily be doubling or tripling the amount of sugar you're taking in, which is going to spike your weight, and you're not going to feel a difference. You're not going to feel like you eat anything different if the brisket is full of dried fruit than if it had a savory sauce. Okay, you came up, you're not used to eating so late, and that's the concern. You're not worried about the treats. Okay, so eating late and having, if I'm asking Jen, you're talking about bloating the next day, right? Shoshana Teiflin mentioned that. You're talking about feeling gross the next day with eating late. So that really comes down to volume. And like we've talked about before, every single holiday, the key is to front load your day, and 5 o'clock, get that volume of veggies in, water in, so that you're sitting, enjoying the meal, enjoying the space, and tasting what's happening at the main meal. Having a little bit of veggies, a little bit of protein, like and just being a part of it and focusing and prepare something. You only eat soup at night. It makes you so stressed to eat so late. So this is where I'm gonna push a little bit, and I'm gonna ask you please to come in. You only eat soup Friday night, but you don't weigh yourself Saturday morning. Right? You weigh yourself for an entire Shabbos. So maybe it's not the soup. If you only eat soup at night, maybe it's not the soup.
Right. So, but everything else is like really pre-tracked, and pretty much it's like would not be the reason for the weight gain either.
This is Sorrel, right? There you are,
This is
not Joe,
Sorrel,
right?
yeah.
It's just Sorrel. So the few reasons why I like to sometimes think we have a delayed weight loss on Shabbat is your volume higher, just your volume higher of cooked vegetables, of accessories, of stuff.
More
Right,
food.
yeah. So it could also just be like, it takes a day or two for that to leave your body. And sometimes it's just being honest in that, like, there's more yummy accessories on Shabbos and going for Shabbos being a maintenance day. Now, if you're talking about now 7 days of holiday practically, okay, we got Thursday, which sometimes somehow in our trackers turns into, well, I was getting ready for Shabbos, I missed a meal, I was rushed, I was shopping. Okay, and then you have Friday where people sometimes are not as, I know you're very on top of your tracking. But if we look and we say, okay, there's a lot of days here and there's a lot of eating at night, it's a decision to be stressed about it, or it's a decision to be like, you know what? There is something to enjoy, and I can decide which days I want to have more accessorized things and which days I'm happy to have less accessorized things, because to you specifically, you really want a weight loss over this holiday and not a maintenance. And
Or a
guys,
maintenance would be great. A maintenance, I would take it and be so thrilled.
so with a maintenance, it's really, and weight loss, guys, it's really about sticking to plate it. It's really about sticking to plate it, and even watching the more sure and checking in that you're actually hungry when you're more sure. A single Thanksgiving meal and you more sure because you're sitting there and you're not really hungry, right? So it's no big deal, but 6-7 days of eating when you're not hungry again and again and again, you might have a delayed weight loss. You might bloat a little bit. Alana, I know, has talked about that over the holidays many times, how sometimes when she comes back from her in-laws, she is super bloated and it takes a few days to come down because she just ate so much more than she would ever do on a regular week. Before I continue, Yoni, did you have something you want to add to that?
There's a bunch of new people on the call today, and we're
Yes.
using a lot of terminology, and people are kind of looking deer in
No
headlights.
problem.
More
Thank you.
sure, going back.
I have
to
a
the
picture.
videos and
I'm all
when-
ready. Okay. But this, if you bring it up, I can go through it. Like, I have a picture ready for more sure. Okay, guys,
Wait,
so.
Can I just say one, can I say one
Sure.
thing on what you were saying? Because I feel like it connects with all the, especially when some people are, I stress about eating late. I think rephrasing that, if you have figured out from your tracking and your days that earlier dinners, right, help in your weight loss because of how you feel. Maybe you're also getting up earlier, you're weighing yourself earlier. Therefore, when Alana talks about having at least like 10 dry hours where you're not eating or drinking because you weigh yourself earlier and all that kind of stuff. I would also try, just like we talked about the word starving, right?
Yeah.
And the word struggle, like this stresses me out. You're building all that, like, remember when we spoke about, like, we're not meant to avoid and fear Shabbos and the holidays. Like Lily said, there might be some aspects of delayed weight loss because we are having so many meals, right? It is the yontif. You have not turned on its head all your behaviors and all your habits and your mindset work. I think part of it might also just be letting go of the stress. Yes, some parts are fact. Your meals are going to be later. Now, everything that Lily is saying can help you work with the reality of these are the times of the, these are the times of the meal, So for me, that's a big aspect. And I'm saying, oh my God, it's stressing me out. And then looking to avoid, then you also end up not being happy about Chag because you feel like you're not, or more that you can't participate. Like, I'm sure if you looked back at your trackers from the past year, you've had a situation where you've eaten maybe later than usual and still maintain the next day, or had one treat of something and still maintain the next day. So don't build it up in your head that, oh my God, you know, the late nights are what's gonna do it. You know, we often have that misconception of what we think is tripping us up. Concentrate on your meal, right? And it's not the healthy stuff that's tripping you up.
I think also, Lily, if you remember at the beginning, when I was a challenger before I ever became a coach, I was doing this thing where I was just cutting out the proportions of the meals. I'm like, I would just have, and Sorel, I'm not trying to point you out like by pointing a finger, but my fear was, oh, so I'll just cut down what I eat, rather than say, I'll still have what's supposed to be at that meal. And back to what Lily was saying about plate it, your dinner could be the size of a tea saucer. So if you're having soup, put in a tiny, like have a small piece of some sort of protein in that. But rather than just stick to a single food group, if you don't have to, because there are so many night meals happening. It's one thing to say on Shabbos, and that's what I was going to say specifically to Sorel. It's one thing to say on Shabbos that you're on Friday night, maybe this, you know, that sometimes I'm just having soup. There are so many consecutive night meals happening in the span of 7 days.
Yes.
That you will end up with 5 night meals where you're cutting out an entire food proportion.
Yeah.
That I want you to just make sure that they're there. Because sometimes, and I found this out the hard way until Lily pointed out, I stopped losing when I actually started eating less of certain things. Meaning my proportions suddenly changed out of what the ideal was. I was eating less because I just didn't want a bigger meal. But instead of keeping everything the way that it should be at each meal, I just kind of left something out. The second I added food back in, I went back into weight loss mode.
Yeah.
So just something to try to play around with is if
Thank
it's because you just can't eat so much, make the entire meal smaller.
And I would say even especially for people who need to eat a lot, and this is what I was saying, when you're gonna pre-eat at 5 or 6, if you're not eating till 7, 8, 9 p.m., that's where your volume needs to be. And for everybody who's a beginner, you have to get full and satisfied. You need all your food groups in your plate, but everybody has a different amount of volume that they need personally to get full and satisfied. And for many of us, we could physically don't need any more food, but maybe we physically, for our personality, for our body, don't hit satisfied until we have a certain volume in our stomach. And from the very beginning of the videos, Alana talks about that half a cup in the very first carb video of white rice versus 6 cups of cauliflower rice, okay? It makes a huge difference if you're gonna have that volume, like Ayelet mentioned earlier, so that you have still more hours with less food in you by when you wake up in the morning, because that's what really makes us feel bloated and gross the next day. Is I have so many clients who feel like they did such a good job late at night having a big bowl of broccoli, and then the scale's up the next day. And it's so frustrating when you have a zoomed in mindset versus when she zooms out and she looks at the week and she had a 2-pound weight loss. It's like, oh, okay. Like, that's okay that that day was a weight gain day, because it wasn't really, it was a delayed weight loss day. And really, I do need to keep working on getting my meals earlier.
When you're a coach and people are watching your screen, it makes a difference.
Right. Okay, I wasn't sure if that was for us or not. Okay, so really important. So we talked about late night eating, and I want to see from all of you guys, does this answer your question? Does this give you some calm, some confidence? I am going to plan a 5, 6 p.m. big vegetable stack, maybe with a little, protein. And then I'm going to have a smaller dinner of what everybody's really having. Like, I'm going to have a taste of the seam. I'm going to have a, little rimon. I'm going to have a little bite of a date. And one of the things that I've learned specifically about Rosh Hashanah and the Simanim is to cut everything very small and to use very small bowls. Okay. So like if I'm doing, pomegranate, I'm not doing a huge bowl of pomegranate and a huge bowl of dates and a huge bowl. I do like tastes. It's just supposed to be symbolic. It's tradition. And it's not that everything has to be like in these huge servings. Okay, it's able to do the simanim, like buy a platter, right? Like we talk about challah sometimes. If your personal challah is just, you can't stop eating 3 pieces for a week, break the habit, go buy a challah. Okay, a lot of beautiful places sell simanim platters. Each siman is like, right, small sizes. Get 2, have a little bit to taste, and then have a beautiful holiday meal. But if you want to be weight loss, and that's why you guys are here, you want to be weight loss or maintenance, leaning towards loss, it's a lot of meals and you have to have something else to look forward to. You have to have family time you're looking forward to. There have to be traditions that are outside of food. Otherwise, you are going to enter a struggle zone because there's an
Love
emptiness
that, Yoni.
that's only being filled. Yes.
Did
Beautiful.
everybody see that Yoni has a Rosh Hashanah Seder plate?
Yes. We can't hear you, but yes.
You're on mute.
Exactly what I'm talking about.
But can you
The best-
also
the best-
acknowledge
At the
Melissa-
hardware store in Israel. This was bought at a hardware store in Israel. It is literally a simanim Seder plate. But if you see what Lily was talking about, this whole tiny little dish, that's the amount of rimon that's at the table for everyone, because there were so many other things that we're eating. Nobody needs to have, 45 tablespoons. So again, it looks pretty, but then it also sizes everybody down so that you don't end up gorging yourself on all of this at nighttime.
Okay, so Melissa had a great question here. What about, like dynamics? You have late lunches, shul goes late, and then the next meal goes late. All of that is about the overeating, right? If you're going to shul for a long period of time, eat breakfast first. If you're going to a shul that has a kiddush, Alana mentioned this in this week's weekly Zoom. Bring your water bottle to shul, okay? You're not doing anything wrong. Bring your water bottle to shul. You can get easily 3 bottles in like a really long davening with a kiddush. You're gonna come home and you're gonna have lunch. Does that mean that if you finish lunch at 3 p.m., at 5 p.m. you couldn't have a cucumber? If you're that full, then great, skip it. No one's telling you you have to eat, but then ask yourself, are you still gonna be that full at 7 when you're not eating till 9? Or you're not eating till 8:30? At 7, have the cucumber, right? Don't make it 5, 6 p.m. Oh, I missed the window. I can't eat the vegetable. No, be a little fluid. Focus on the mindset. The mindset is earlier in the day, I'm going to have more volume. Later in the day, again, if it bothers you, not everybody gets bloated by eating. Not everybody needs so much volume at night anyway. Okay,
And
so
also, Lily wasn't saying eat a full dinner at 5 before your Rosh Hashanah meal. She was more talking about front loading vegetables. That if
I
you're
said
going to be
vegetables,
hungry,
volume.
right, front load the volumes. When she's saying volume, she was talking about like dinner. And like we've said before, if you're not hungry for dinner, then you got to go backwards and check, like Lily was saying, were you overeating lunch? But even a long davening, like Lily said, if you have breakfast Rosh Hashanah morning, davening in America, different than in Israel, what, 5 hours?
Right.
Let's say, and then you have lunch, like, it's not crazy. I'm assuming nobody here on the call, maybe you are. I know I don't get to shul on Rosh Hashanah, Psuki to Zimra. So my breakfast is not then 5 hours until lunch. If I eat my breakfast before I go to Rosh Hashanah davening, it's actually a normal gap of like 4 hours, let's say, until I have lunch. And then if you're not overeating lunch, again, sometimes we're working up scenarios based on our past, and we're letting that dictate what we're going to do. And what we're trying to do now is actually create something new.
And I think that's perfect to also what you were talking about wanting more treats over Chag. Yeah, who hasn't been there? Raise your hand if you have overeaten treats on a Chag before. 2 hands up, everybody. Okay, especially on a Chag that revolves around sugar. And this goes to Yoni's point at the beginning, which is looking at your menu as an entire 7-day process, 5-day process. How many treats am I really serving? How many different kinds of desserts am I making? I want to be honest with you guys. You are davening for health. You are davening, I'm sure, weight loss. If you are in this group, if you are still on a weight loss journey, weight loss is in your prayers. this year, maintaining my weight and getting my fitness back again is definitely going to feature in my prayers, because it's a process. It's not a struggle. It's a process right now, keeping it up with a different vibe of what's happening. Okay. And so it's going to be in my prayers. So if it's in my prayers, it's got to be in my behavior. If it's in your prayers,
Can I just add
it's in your
something?
behavior, please.
Okay, thank you so much. And thanks for doing these calls. They're so helpful, obviously. Yeah, so I definitely understand that, but it's for me, like I'm going to my parents, and at my parents' house, ever since I can remember, no matter how focused I go in, I don't know what it is about my parents' house, but it always has tripped me up in terms of like I go in strong, and then all of a sudden when I'm around my mom, my sister, like my family, it just really, no matter how prepared I go in, a lot at some point it used to, and hopefully not this year, but it used to always
So
go down that road, and that's where it's scary for me. I'm like, I don't have
Yeah.
control over like the desserts. I know my mom's making a bunch of desserts, but I know that that's going to be my biggest challenge. Like, yes, the timing, it's like all these things are nice, but like for me, the biggest challenge is for sure like the cakes.
So I think this is like really important that you brought up, because a lot of people like are having a lot of guests where they feel also like it's as if it's not their house because they're making things for the guests, or they're going to other people, okay, who have a lot of things out and around. So there's a few things that are really important to focus on when you're in that kind of situation. Number one is honestly recognizing there's a process here. Maybe you used to break on day 4, and this time you break day 7.5. Okay. And it's the last 2 hours of Chag that you end up overeating a little bit of cake. Okay. It's not day 3. And for 5 days, you threw up your hands. Okay. Watching your progress in separating our emotions in our relationships from food, it is one hell of a process that takes a lot of time and way past even your maintenance journey to unravel, especially when it involves our parents and the food relationship dynamics in the house from our childhood. Like that's big stuff. That's therapy stuff. Okay. It's not just like, I don't have enough willpower. No way. Right. What Aviva was going to say in the chat is exactly where I was going. Mwah, great job. Okay. Is you have to curate your eyes. You got to put on those rose tubey mindset sunglasses. Like I would literally go get something like a physical reminder, glasses, a new bracelet, something. I like to used to get my nails done whenever my in-laws come for Sukkot, because they also has similar dynamic. I'd get my nails done. So because I see them every time I eat. And it was like a reminder, it was just for myself that like, these hands are mine. What I'm seeing, what I'm touching, that's in my control. So if all of the desserts are congregated in the kitchen, don't go in the kitchen. Don't offer to help with the serving. Don't offer to help with that stuff. Help with the other things. Help sweep, help wash the floor, help take out trash, right? There's a lot of ways to help that aren't in the kitchen. When
Put yourself in charge of refilling the water.
refilling the water. Okay, as long as you're not
There
walking
always-
right by
There
the desserts
always
that are like on the
needs to be
counter.
somebody that does that. Your hands will be full, and I don't know about you, but around my table, it's actually a fight. No, you refill the pitcher. No, you
Right.
finished it. No, I left a little bit, so I don't have to refill it. Like,
Yeah,
just take that on. Just
exactly.
freaking keep on being the person that refills all the pitchers.
And then
Also, I
it's,
think
Yeah.
I think that there's something we're not mentioning, that you can also let your family know. There's no shame in saying, I'm really, my goals are a healthier future. I'm asking you now, don't offer me those things. At the beginning, it's hard to say those words because we like them, but it sounds like you really don't want to be taking those things.
Yoni, can
So
I
you
say
can
something to that? I mean, because I don't know about you, but even before Melissa answers, I'm only thinking inside her head because I've heard it, and I feel like it's very similar to my family. There's a lot more than just sometimes, I know for me, saying to my family, because other people in my family who struggled with their weight or wanted to be this or whatever, and then it almost, again, we've all dealt with food pushers or the pressure or who do you think you are, or because again, people are trying to, let's say, make themselves feel better. I feel like in certain circumstances, that works. And I know for me, when that just was way more pressure for me with my family, even thinking about saying to that, and like even trying to, even though I knew I was making up in my head, they love me, they want the best for me, and I didn't even try it. It was too much in my head to sometimes say something like that when you know, if you feel sometimes maybe a little bit too vulnerable going into that, you know, situation like that. I can only imagine. I know from Melissa personally just what she goes through with her mother and her sisters in this kind of, you know, in this kind of situation. I feel like sometimes you have to go in with a different, maybe like you're not asking them, because that actually maybe sometimes might make it more difficult. I think that's huge, Yoni, what you said. I think if anybody who can,
Well,
do
I didn't finish the thought. I didn't finish the
I
thought.
know,
So
sorry,
I'll
I
let you finish what you were saying. That's
No,
fine. I'll let you
no.
finish what you're saying, and then I'll tell you the whole thought of what I was saying.
You finish yours, because it's amazing advice, and I love it. I was just looking at Melissa's eyes.
Okay. When you're sitting at the table, what I was going to say was, I'm not saying to say, hey, don't have this food at the table, but it's okay to just say, can you put this somewhere else? Aviva wrote something about moving herself away from the
Yeah.
table. There's nothing wrong with moving. That's all I was trying to get to, was ask to just move the item that is your most vulnerable something. We all have that, something our parents make or whatever it is. We all also revert, a lot of us, back to 17 years old when we get back into our parents' homes. So even the way that we might normally nicely ask something goes back into that teenager way of requesting that has all the polish we've gained over life go out the window. So even just a symbol of, can you put that at the other end of the table? Thanks.
Right. I think that's huge.
Rather than not asking them not to make
Guys,
it.
I think both of you are exactly on the right side, and I want to bring it back to Melissa, because they're both great points and sum them up the way I heard them, and I think everybody said. And I want to tell Aviva, you absolutely have self-control. Everybody is impulsive when they're around food for too long. Don't say you don't have self-control. You absolutely have self-control. It's impulsivity. We are all impulsive around food. It's like hardwired in our brain. Okay. If you're a food person, you're a little impulsive around food when you're sitting in front of it for a long time. Okay. So like go easy on yourself. I think what Yoni said was brilliant. You can just be like, gosh, that's really calling to me. Do you mind moving that over there? I'm done. I'm done with it for today. I'm full. Do you mind moving that over there? Like, you can make a joke out of it. You can be sincere about it. You can feel how you feel with your family and what feels good to you. And then you can also leave the table, and you can also take a break, which again, with these long meals, that impulsivity is real. And we did a previous call, and I'll try to look for it if anybody wants it, about impulsivity versus spontaneity. Impulsivity is, I'm sitting in a meal for 4 hours and all the food is at the table and I'm not in control. If you're at your house, if you have not moved to a buffet for the holidays, this is the year. This is the year to move your food to a buffet and not have the food in front of you for yourself and for your guests. And focus on conversation, focus on connection, focus on relationships, and not focused everybody looking to the center of the table. Ooh, what are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? But if you don't have that option, you don't have a good space in your house, or you're at someone else's house, or you're at your parents' house, and that's not how they do it, then it's so important to do what you can for your environment. And I'd like to bring up again, bringing your water bottle and not relying on cups. And I know this is also something where some people are like, my mom will kill me. She has a gorgeous tablescape, and if I put my water bottle down on the table, like she's disowning me. Now, I think there's a lot less people like that than we pretend we are. I had somebody this week was going to a very posh wedding and she really bring my water bottle, not bring my water bottle, bring my water. She brought the water bottle. She had the most amazing time. She literally attracted health-minded people to her with the water bottle. And like, she just was so not tempted. And it was an amazing experience, which she never would have done before. Okay, so take the bottle with you. It's your security blanket. It's beautiful. And I love what Aviva said, also talking to yourself out loud. I will say that's the best impact I've ever given to my kids unconsciously. Saying, you know what, I'm really craving today. I was having so many cravings today. And I just like, at the end of the day, it's so good to look back and be like, today I didn't give in. Doesn't mean I didn't give in a week ago. Doesn't mean I didn't give in a month ago. Doesn't mean I didn't give in yesterday. Today, I just let the feeling pass through me. I knew I wasn't hungry. I knew it was just an emotional response. It was, I don't want to feel this. I want to eat something. No, I don't. That's it. You know, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Okay.
So I really appreciate, can I just, can I
please,
just
go
answer
ahead.
what said? Okay, so I just wanted to thank everybody for all their tips. Like the chat had some really great tips from all different people, and Yoni and Ayala, I really appreciate bits and pieces of all of them. And I think what resonates with me is like, yes, Ayala's right. Like I don't feel comfortable necessarily saying to everybody, okay, I'm on this health journey, because later on, if I did pick at something, then it would be like people laughing. You're like, oh, look, how's your program going, right? Like, and then causing me to feel shame because that's happened before, and making me feel guilty. And then from there, it goes down. So I like the idea of kind of, you know, trying to speak out loud, but like also get a little bit until I make it. Like, let's say if the dessert was being passed, I think I'd feel okay with like, you know, I'm really in the mood for a tea. Like I'm really in the mood for that. And so if people pass me Kiko, you're not going to try it. I'm like, you know what, I'm really slow right now, but maybe later, or maybe tomorrow, or just like trying to not say I'm doing it necessarily for my health, because in my heart, I know that's what I'm doing it for. But it's, if I start going down that road, then sometimes it feels like I'm adding pressure to myself.
I feel like keeping it light, there's a lot of good stuff about keeping it light. You know, Alana's thing of no thanks, I'm good is very light. There's no like,
Yeah.
about my diabetes. Like, no, like,
Right.
like,
Can
and
I just,
especially, yes, please go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna ask a question because I know you said it before. But let's say if you're having lunch and it's time for you to have like your FFC and whatnot, but you decide that that cake that you're going to be having, you're going to try, and it's a silly carb. Are you supposed to then replace your FFC with a silly carb, or is it like in addition to the FFC? I was never sure about that. Like if you go into it knowing you're planning it.
This is, I think, coach to coach. Everybody has a different approach, and I would say day to day. For me personally, if it's a Shabbos where I'm doing a lot of walking and I'm going to be very active, I have the FFC and the treat is on top of it. If it's a Shabbos where I am napping and barely moving, my FFC might be the hummus with the vegetables, like, right? It like, that's maybe my FFC, as like, you know, with the salatim, with my Israeli salad, or the fruit in the salad. And I don't need a full FFC serving because I'm barely moving. And it's one of the best things about Shabbos. You know, I definitely adjust my FFC at lunch on a holidays. That's me. And I'm happy to have the other coaches weigh in with their personal perspective. If you guys differ.
You know, I think Yoni and I probably each have perspectives, whichever. So I'm very similar, and I've spoken about that a lot. I feel like on Shabbos, just the nature of a lot of the food, the more volume, like you said, maybe there's more cooked, maybe, you know, unless like sometimes I realize that when I'm like, let's say away on vacation or alone, and literally lunch is like salad and tofu, you start realizing the difference than when you're sitting at a Shabbos meal, you know, and there's so much more of something and everything is a little bit more accessorized than usual. Like Lily said, very often, and yes, on Shabbos, there is fruit in my salad. I personally don't look to be like, oh gosh, and now I got to get in that healthy FFC. I feel like the calories over the course of that, my breakfast is my breakfast, you know, and especially on a Chag, when it's not a Shabbos, where dinner is then going to be another meal that's going to have accessories. And if you do simanim, and that's going to include some rimon and some this also in addition, I wouldn't specifically, like Lily said, Chag to Chag, day to day, person to person, whatever. Rosh Hashanah is also because of so much shul time in it. If I get in a walk, I'm getting it because I know there's been so much extra in my body, like I need to release it. Like if you follow like the glucose goddess, or you read the book like the Glucose Revolution, the best thing you can do for your body if you've had carb or sugar or something like that is to at least walk for 10 minutes, move your body for 10 minutes afterwards so you can digest it better and not like delete the craving. So for me, I agree with Lily, like you're not moving around so much, and especially Rosh Hashanah, where another meal is coming that's not going to be simple like during the week. I don't need to get
I wanna
in
add
half a cup of
something.
brown rice.
I want to add something because I think you reminded me of something that we should both clarify. That doesn't mean that we always have treats at lunch either.
Right.
Sometimes the treat of Chag is that there's also fruit in my salad, and there's also nuts in my salad, and there are more accessories. Not like, again, pay attention, okay? If you're putting 6 accessories, remember like we talked about treat stacking? Let's watch accessory stacking. 5 accessories in one salad is not going to help your weight loss. It's going to be a weight gain salad. What a waste. What a
And it's
waste.
different if it's lunch or dinner. Alana spoke about this
Yes.
recently, how she, also you have to know your body. Some people can really handle healthy FFCs and even having some in the evening sometimes. She is very sensitive to all forms of carb, but she can handle healthy fats better. So she will load up accessories lunchtime. And when she shows on Instagram her food lunchtime, you might see tons of accessories. There might be olives and high fat feta and her dinners though will be minimally accessorized then because she has figured out how her body works. So
And
on
different
Yom Tov-
seasons of life, your body might
yeah,
be different as
so
well.
on Yom Tov also, like what Lily is saying, like treat stacking, accessory stacking with meal after meal definitely needs to have some awareness brought to the table.
So I want to, Yoni, did you have anything you really want to add to this topic before I want to be super practical in our last 5 minutes?
So I actually have 2 versions of it.
Okay.
One is, and I'm coming from a different place as someone who
Of
is a
course,
recovering eating disordered person.
please.
I literally schedule my treats.
Yeah.
And it's really the Alana delay, not deny feeling. The second I go into the feeling that I'm in a diet or that I'm denying myself, all rules are off the table and whatever's in front of me is in my mouth. And so for myself, I guess for me, the geder, if you want to say, that I've set for myself is I schedule my treats. And we've all learned this, that if you're someone who does actually plan on a treat, you get snobbier and snobbier about what is worthy of me treating. And I will change it 6 times between like the days leading up to when I know I want to have my treats. And for me, I when I say scheduling, Tuesday and Shabbos lunch, like I literally have it scheduled for myself because it's broken up during the week. Do I always have it? No, but those are the 2 times that I've opened up myself to say, if we want one, those are good times.
And
So it's kind of the both pieces. Do I always have to have one then? No, I do not always have to have one then. But on the other side of the coin, as someone who doesn't want to ever have the mindset of feeling denial, for me, it's delay. So I have something on, seeing forward that, okay, I have this many days till whatever I'm planning on having, what am I going to have? And I can change it again, 62 times until it usually does have something peanut butter and chocolate involved. But the point is, it can change 100 times because it has to be worthy of that treat. One little thing I wanted to add, to someone else who said buffet, a non-Tubi person threw something out recently and they one-upped buffet. They said, yes, their carbs and proteins are all on buffet and all the salatim and all the marinated salads are on the table the whole meal. So when people are stuck at the table, it's forcing them to be picking.
you're reading my mind as when I was going to say practical tips. I was going to say one of my best purchases I ever made was very fancy vegetable platters. Like I got these, I went to Homestock. I mean, they weren't expensive, but they look really impressive. They're these gorgeous wood vegetable platters and they have like a rattan cover and they live on they look like a tablescape on the table at every meal. Everything else is on a buffet. But at a kiddish and a thing, I bring them everywhere. I can refill that thing 6 times. If we go play games, it is constantly being refilled, especially over a long Chag. And it's key because so many of the salads and cooked vegetables are accessorized, that there's a non-accessorized veggies that are going in and filling that space in between. And I think like brilliant mind meld happening here. And as you can see, the coaches are on the same wavelength because we've all been through a lot of Rosh Hashanahs already. And still we prepare. And Ayala did it brilliantly last week. And I want to tie in Yoni's from the week before. that this is getting you ready for the Rosh Hashanah was a process that everybody contributed to. And you're going to contribute to your whole family. Remember, every change you make for yourself this holiday is planting a seed that is going to grow a healthy future for your kids. Your kids, if you notice them and you're thinking, oh, well, it's just me, it's just me, it's just me. It's not just you. If you're treat stacking, your kids are treat stacking. If you're accessory stacking, your kids are going to accessory snack. If you have to have a treat every single day, don't be surprised that your kids are going to grow up in that same mindset versus twice a week, once a week, 3 times a week, whatever your number is. There's no judgment, but every single day, is it really a treat? I'm going to leave with those words. I'm so happy this was so helpful. And anybody have a last question or something that they're saying? Ramon, first of all, it's nice to see you. It's my first time ever meeting you in person. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
It's her
And
birthday.
Hi,
on
thanks
2B.
for having me.
happy birthday.
Literally, her literal first 2B day.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
not my
So I'm
birthday,
sorry
but-
if did this overwhelm you? Did you have any questions of a term I used or something I can clarify for you?
I wrote to Yoni somewhere in the middle, what's FFC, but I think I'm gonna follow up with that later. But no, that's
Okay,
great. Thank you.
I hope this spurred your interest in watching the videos and leading into them. And anybody who's not watching the Mindset Membership Zooms, the last 2 Zooms Alana did, go watch those. She's talking about Halloween. We're like going into the Jewish holiday season. Forget Halloween, that's one day. We could be Halloween's butt, right? Like we gotta prepare way more for Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot than they have to for Halloween.
I laugh every year when we get to December and there are people on the call who say, the whole year I'm working off Christmas dinner. And all I think is we do it every week. Not anymore, but just kind of
So
funny
don't
that
let it
one
be.
meal of the whole year sets them off.
Exactly. So really, guys, there's so many amazing things. And I will say one thing about honey and maple syrup. If you can find so many non-refined sugar desserts in this 1-2-day Chag, I suggest you take all of those and start using those instead of the white flour, white sugar cookies and brownies and recipes that you would use the whole rest of the year. Take everything you want to make Rosh Hashanah that has all these amazing FFC like squash and pomegranate and dates and and use them for the entire year. You basically have made a recipe book of 2B Mindset friendly recipes for the whole year. Just don't serve them all in 2 days or in the 5-day period that we have between the double Shabbos with Rosh Hashanah in between. And reach out to the group. We're here. If you're feeling your process coming and you need someone to listen to you work through that process, or you need someone to help you work through that process, we're here. We love you. We have space in our hearts and time on our clocks for you. I hope you guys enjoyed today. Share a breakthrough, share an aha moment, share a tip that you got for the people who are going to be watching the recording in the Facebook group so that they can get the most out of it too. And I'm really impressed how many people came on tonight and made time for themselves, invested in themselves for this year. And our coaches are amazing, right? I couldn't, like, this call would have been only as third as good if we didn't have their amazing contribution. So thank you guys so much. Every single word that you guys said was wise and productive. So thank you guys so much for all your insights.
And thank you, Lily, for always having such a well thought out agenda and things to target that are applicable and so helpful, really going into this Chag so soon, because next Sunday night is Chag. There is no call, everybody. And one last thing, I'm sure everybody on this call knows, so if somebody's listening to the recording, guys, call information is in the Facebook group on Sundays, always, okay? If you find yourself ever writing to your coach saying, is there a call? I mean, it's okay, ask your coach, that's always better than not, but also check in with the Facebook group first, like, and just see what, you know, what's going on there, because usually the information is there.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, and also I think whoever's watching or whoever's on the call now, you should all just be blessed with a year of health, spiritually, physically, mentally. We should all just have a sweet new year. May it be a new beginning for everybody. May the mindset be where you want it to be. And we all work together to help each other.
Beautifully said. Chag Sameach, everybody.
Shana Tova.
Mwah. Chag
Shana
Sameach.
Tova.
Shana Tova.